Everybody. Buenos dias. Back in my regular saddle here in the middle of Mexico for a little while until I head back to DC. Ken, can you give me the thumbs up in the private chat that we are live around the world? Wherever you are, it is Halloween, most likely. I guess. Well, it could be tomorrow for you. I think it is for Ken, who's in the Philippines. But it's Halloween where I am. It's Halloween in the United States. And as you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of orange anyway. So Halloween works out pretty well for our color scheme. Got me some new glasses so everybody can comment on the glasses. Today, I don't have a big collar, so you can't comment on that. Or I guess you could say, where's your big collar? I was in Mexico City over the weekend with my good friend Nuge, one of my best buddies, one of my partners in crime. And we were at the Formula One race. And these glasses are from Ben and Frank, which is like the Warby Parker of Mexico. And sometimes things move slowly in Mexico. But man, we went on Sunday to buy these glasses. They did my prescription and I got them yesterday. So I'm driving them today. And Formula One, by the way, is an amazing experience if you ever get a chance to go. I'm going to open up the chat here. We had a lot of people yesterday in our LinkedIn workshop. It was an actual workshop, which was super cool. We are working on people's headlines and a lot of great interaction. And all of these events are better when we all interact. So if you are joining, please let us know who you are, where you are, drop your LinkedIn profile so that people can connect. I'm going to get into talking about our main topic today, effective sales calls, but I wanted to tell a pretty cool story. We have our two cohorts going on right now. One of them has 10 people, one of them has 8. And a lot of times we are doing work in our LinkedIn profiles, although it's not a LinkedIn course, but we're doing work in our LinkedIn profiles. And people share their screens. And when people share their screens of their LinkedIn profiles, I'm able to see all of these different members of the Ed Sales Elevation Experience community connecting, talking, supporting each other, meeting up. In fact, Ken, today, Charlotte pulled up her screen and there she was having a conversation with Toy, one of our favorite people, one of our favorite clients, although we love all of our clients. Charlotte and Toy are just rock stars. So they could go far together. So the point here is if you put in the chat, again, your name, your company, your LinkedIn profile, you can join our community, support each other. We're all in education. And so it's a really wonderful place to be together. So today, what we're here to talk about is one of the crucial topics for anybody who's trying to grow their business in the education space, which is how to conduct effective sales calls. And we're also going to go through how not to conduct effective sales calls. And when I started my first business in education was 2007, and I was selling my tutoring to parents, and I would go to their homes in and around the Washington, D.C. area. Then, after I sold that business, I was focused on Flex Academies, and I would go to schools and have conversations with principals and PTAs there. And it's really helpful to be able to go into somebody's home and or their office because you get an idea of who they are. and you generally catch them in a relaxed mode, and you can look up on the wall. And again, you guys have heard this. If when I was in the DC area, you could look up on the wall and see something from the Washington Redskins. Or, if I was going into somebody's home, you could see that, they had a diploma from American University, is where I went. And you had that shared connection. It was really easy to point out and really easy to kind of get the conversation going. We don't have that as much anymore, because in a post-pandemic world, most of our conversations at least start this way, using Zoom, using Google Meets, using whatever tool you want. So it's harder to kind of make those connections out of the gate. And in a post-pandemic world, when you're having your sales calls in a Google Meets or a Zoom or whatever, you have less time. Seems like everybody's more rushed. So you certainly have less time, and so you've got to be faster. So today, we're going to talk about basically 3 really important aspects, I believe, of having effective sales calls. First of all, the power of active listening. Second of all, building trust and connection. And then third, the role of storytelling. And what I'd like you to get from our Coach's Corner today is I want you to shift the focus from talking about features to having genuine conversations. And when you have those conversations, you should use open-ended questions to uncover pain points. And you should be leveraging your personal credibility that hopefully you're drinking our LinkedIn Kool-Aid and building out your credibility on LinkedIn and beyond. So whether you are a seasoned pro or you're new to this, these strategies will help, or they'll be a reminder that you're doing the right thing. So first of all, let's talk about the power of active listening. In the Ed Sales Elevation Experience, we have a tool called the Raise Your Hand campaign. And in the Raise Your Hand campaign, this is something that I started crafting in October of 2007. I have kind of perfected it through John Gamba, and he's helped me really make that a strong tool. And in the Raise Your Hand campaign, what you do is you listen to people. And I know that sounds very basic, but for a lot of people in the education space, what I find is they don't listen to their ideal client. And the reason is they get a little bit of traction starting the business, just a little. Maybe they do a little discovery, but just enough to get a sale. And then from there, and I get it, they're focused on growing their business. And they do not listen to people because they feel like they've got the solution and all they have to do is just tell their ideal client, the person they're talking to, about the features, and that then they think they'll sign up. And it does and will not and will never work that way. So the power of active listening, kind of leveraging that Raise Your Hand campaign idea where you are asking questions of people, shifting the focus from that lengthy product conversation to having genuine conversations that prioritize the prospect's needs and challenges. Let me repeat that. You need to prioritize your prospects, your ideal clients' needs and challenges. This is not about your needs and your priorities of demonstrating the features. When you are using active listening, you're asking those open-ended questions to uncover those pain points. You're focusing on the prospect's answers, and you use that information because that is valuable to you. It better be valuable. If it's not valuable to you, then it's a total waste of time to do active listening, your time and their time. But assuming it's valuable to you, you're going to use that to grow your business. Speaking of listening, if anybody wants to chime in here in the chat, talk about your method, your approach to active and effective sales calls. Chime in here. Okay. I'm here to listen as well. Practice what I preach, which was interesting, right? I don't know if you got a chance to listen to our latest show here, which is about effective sales calls. And it was basically about listening. And all I did in that show was talk. What can I do to show, So again, what we are doing here is talking about active listening and sales calls. Inside the Ed Sales Elevation Experience, we have a whole portion dedicated to listening, dissecting. We have a client, I mentioned her earlier, Toy. Toy went around and she was talking to schools in West Virginia. She runs a really wonderful organization called EntreEd. And they've got professional development rooted in entrepreneurship. And she was going around talking to these principals in West Virginia, and they all were saying, oh, no, we need to retain our teachers. We're losing them to the factories, and they're staying home, and they're going back to school themselves. And Toy came back to me and Ken and said, look, this is what I've heard from everybody, so I don't know what we're going to do. And I said, no, here's what you're going to do. You're going to go back to them and tell these particular people, these principals, hey, I've got a professional development program. It's really unique, rooted in entrepreneurship. It will help retain your teachers. Are you interested? And they said yes. That was just because we did active listening and connected the dots and listened to a lot of people. So let's move on to point number 2 here. You need to build trust and connection before the sales calls even happen. How do you do that? I would say LinkedIn is a great place to do that. To me, LinkedIn, I'm really exploring this metaphor here of LinkedIn as a gym. Okay. When you go to the gym once a week, have you gone to the gym? Yes. Are you going to see the results that you're looking for? Probably not. But if you go to the gym on a consistent basis, you're going to see the results. You're also going to see other people who are getting results, which is going to help you motivate yourself even more. And so LinkedIn, if you just forget that it's a place that you might try and meet somebody and close a deal. Just forget that. Just think of LinkedIn as a place for you to go and work on your credibility and build those muscles. Become a subject matter expert. Spend time with other subject matter experts in the field of education. See what they're doing. Join their conversations. Hop into, quote unquote, their workouts. When you think of it like that, it should make perfect sense as to how LinkedIn can help you. Yesterday on the LinkedIn profile makeover, we had somebody there who was really asking some great questions and saying, just not really believing at that point, which is fine. I love the objections and rejections. Was not really believing at that point that LinkedIn could lead to sales. And I said, that's fine. What LinkedIn can absolutely 100% unequivocally, no questions asked, lead to is your credibility being boosted. It's a place for you to practice talking about the subjects that matter to your ideal client. It's a place where you can mix and mingle and network and support subject matter experts that are in the field. And it's a place where when you reach out to people who are your potential leads, they will find you. They may not hang out there all the time, but when they Google you, maybe they'll go to your website. Don't even get me started on websites. I have a new rant on websites and how boring and useless they are. But they could go to your LinkedIn profile. And if your LinkedIn profile is a place where you can build their trust actively, and why I say actively is because your banner can change all the time and can reflect a talk you gave or a new testimonial. Your headline, I help who using what method get which results, talks to them. Your about section, it's not a CV, it's not a resume, it speaks to them. You are building trust before that sales call even happens. I think you guys know that I do not look at my first conversation with anybody as a discovery call. I think of it as a confirmation call. And the reason I think of it as a confirmation call is because I bet people have looked me up, confirmed that they want to meet, and see a way that I can help them. And hopefully they get to know me just through my videos and the energy that's coming through, and they'll know that I will help. So I'm going to bring up real quickly a QR code for people to join the Ed Sales Elevation Experience here in our group, our LinkedIn group. So you can see that I am surrounded by other people who absolutely are interested in helping you and getting help. That's what the education space is all about. So I'd like to build your trust and build a connection, and this is a great place to do it. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't play this real quickly about halfway through. We're at halftime here. So anybody who doesn't believe in miracles, miracles happen, guys. If anybody got a chance to watch the Washington Commanders, Washington football team, Washington Redskins game over the weekend, 2 seconds left, Hail Mary, game over. How cool was that? So miracles do happen. But guess what? It's my firm belief miracles do not happen in business. They do not happen in business. Miracles do not happen in business. You have to build. You have to build strategically. You have to have systems. And today, what we are talking about is having a system, having a systemized approach to your sales calls. Okay? One of the last things I wanted to talk about is the role of storytelling. The role of storytelling in overcoming objections and showcasing your impact. A lot of us have been doing this for a while in the education space. So we're lucky enough to have results. So if you don't have results, I really encourage you to get a pilot program, develop a well-organized pilot program so that you can start getting results. I generally do not believe in free, so I would not encourage you to run a pilot program for free, but I certainly would encourage you to run a pilot program at a very discounted price. And you will get those results, and you will be able to tell stories. Because if you saw my email from this morning, you will recognize and realize and remember that facts may tell, but stories, they do sell. And just think back to some of the times where you have bought something and the stories have helped you get to the purchasing place you needed to be. I'll tell you, in my second business, Flex Academies. We would talk about something internally called enrichment envy. So remember, Flex Academies was a business where we sold, we worked with PTAs and school districts to create after-school enrichment programs. And some of the schools that we would work with would be a mile apart, less than that. And while they were public schools, um, and you basically went to the public school in your community, the public schools were still competing because they wanted to be the best public school in their neighborhood, in their town, in the county. And so enrichment envy was a very real thing. So we would talk to schools about and show them and explain to them how the school, Bradley Hills Elementary School, had created this phenomenal after-school enrichment program by being our partner. And now they had 20 programs. We had raised X amount of dollars. The kids were taking these activities. And so when you tell stories, success stories, people are able to relate. People are able to kind of relate and overcome potentially their own objections when you share those real world examples. The stories demonstrate the impact of your solution and build trust. And another thing you can do, and this is kind of a bonus tip here, tell stories and audit. You can audit the prospect's current approach and identify gaps. And you kind of use what I call a self-identification model. And that gives you an opportunity to learn about them, understand where their gaps are, and when you identify those gaps, you can coach them. You know, you can coach a potential client and start giving them value. Start giving them value before you even start working with them. Because when you have more high quality, high converting leads, you are going to have more people say no more often. But that's okay because you're getting more at bats. And that's okay because they're going to be saying no because of time and money, but not because they don't think that you can help them, not because they don't already trust you, not because they're not following you on LinkedIn. They're seeing you on LinkedIn. They're seeing what you're posting. They're seeing that you're speaking at events. And they're joining on the train with you, but they just might not be able to pay. And that's okay. You'll be ready for them when they are. So I want to talk about 5 action items that you can do. First of all, everything I covered here, you can find in our latest show. Ken, I'm wondering if you'll be able to go to our show, Breaking the Grade, in Apple and post in the chat the latest show. And Ken, can you go to joshchernikoff.com and can you find the latest blog post? And you can also put that there in the chat. So we've got some resources for everybody. Here are 5 other action items for you. Focus on listening more and asking those thoughtful questions to uncover pain points. This is not a one-sided conversation. Your features are most likely, sorry to say, the same as your competitors. So you need to listen to people. There you go. There's the blog post in the chat. Thank you, Ken. You need to shift from talking too much about product features to having an open-ended conversation that prioritizes the prospect's needs. Okay? Thank you then, Ken, for putting in the podcast. You need to use open-ended questions to invite the prospect to share their struggles, their goals, their desires. Because if you know their struggles, you can help them. If you know their desires, you can get them where they want to be. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to change your business model or what you do. It just means you have to talk to them differently. Think about Toy. Toy did not change her business model. All Toy did was present it a little differently to address the desires and pains of those principals in West Virginia. Again, begin those sales calls by learning about the prospect's business, school, goals, challenges, build that rapport, build that trust. And finally, incorporate storytelling. The cool thing about storytelling is that it helps to remind you that you've done a few things. You've got stories. They're probably all not good stories, but you've got stories. And those stories are going to help your ideal client, that principal, that PTA, that teacher, that parent. It's going to help them to relate to you better. And it's a really nice way of demonstrating credibility. So it's my belief, and the belief of the 97 other members of the Ed Sales Elevation Experience who have successfully been through it, that by implementing these strategies, you can transform your approach to sales calls. They will be more relaxed. They will be more natural, and they will convert faster. And I've got a story for you to close here. We have a client who's in one of our current cohorts. And they are two of the nicest people in the history of the world. And they came into the Ed Sales Elevation Experience with a phenomenal idea for their business. And they were basically giving it away for free. And they kind of were showing up with their decks, their features. And they went through a portion of the Ed Sales Elevation Experience, which is the Raise Your Hand campaign, which is all about better listening. And they did one Raise Your Hand campaign. One of them. And in that Raise Your Hand campaign, they were able to see how just by listening and just by being, they were equally as nice, I'm sure, but just by holding their ground that this particular opportunity they had to pay, they were able to close the deal. And they didn't even have to say you have to pay, actually, because they had been listening. They explained how they could address those problems for that particular client. And the client said, I will find the money to do this. That is a beautiful thing. Another beautiful thing is all of you guys joining me here. Everybody who was at the LinkedIn workshop yesterday. Everybody who I got to meet at DC Startup Week. That's a whole nother story for another day. Imposter syndrome was creeping in. I spoke in front of probably the largest crowd, definitely in the largest auditorium I ever have. And it was glorious. And I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And this is exactly where I'm supposed to be right now. And this is exactly where you're supposed to be. And you're here for a reason. And you're probably here because you want to close more sales more naturally. And hopefully the tips that I gave you can help you do that. Check out that blog post. Listen to that show. And then also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn, and let's take time to review your strategy. And you don't have to do it today. I would try and implement some of these methods. So give it 2 weeks and then reach out and say, here's what I've been trying, Josh. What do you think? I will give you my honest feedback. I appreciate everybody joining me today. We've been on here for 30 minutes. As you know, I'm in the from the TV space, so I like to get out in 30, at 30, no longer. When we're with John, we go 45 and sometimes longer. Again, check out the blog, listen to the show. This will be rebroadcast on Sunday morning. And I believe that if you follow these methods, your sales will get easier, more natural, and you'll close more. I appreciate it 100% that you guys joined me today. And let's go out there and be lead